Hi, my name is Evan, and I am your facilitator for the writing workshop, Getting Your Story Turned into a Stage Play. Now, this is not a workshop that is exclusively for if you want to put your story into a script for a stage play. You can also benefit from this workshop if you are deciding to do a public speech. Perhaps you have a story or a testimony that you feel that you want to share with other people. I can help you turn that story and find the structure of it because all speaking is really storytelling. So I help you find how you can tell that story either on a stage dramatically or by just one-on-one presentation. Whatever way that you're trying to turn your story, you're still going to need a script. So stick around for the workshop and we will definitely get you ready and started to get your story out there for people to hear. So I'm going to share my screen because I want to go through the pretty much the workshop uh, without any participants so that this can be something that you can stop and pause as the activities come up and as you want to do your writing exercises. But I'm going to pretty much flow through it and in hopes that you would understand that you are just able to pause it and stop it and resume when you have more time. But it will just give you pretty much the complete workshop within one sitting. And we're going to try to do this with under 40 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen because I do have a presentation that I think it's just best for me to go through with you. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the first page. That would work probably very well. Forgive me. Congratulations. You can do this. So, becoming a writer and understanding your story, that is a huge step in itself. That's just kind of coming into the understanding that, hey, you know what? I want to write something out. I think that we're all writers. So I don't really I feel like that person needs to really be coached in writing. I think you have to be coached more in story structure because not everybody is a storyteller, but we all write. We write things down. Even writing would even be considered texting. Writing would even be considered posting. Whatever it is that, however it is that you communicate on a daily basis and what you're using is your writing style, your writing form. We can understand a lot about what you post and the kinds of things that you like. We can understand a lot about that. Just like if you were writing it down in a journal, we can look at your social media feed and understand what you would be writing down in your journal and how your day is going. So these are just different ways to look at writing. So theater arts, and I want to start with this because most people that are writing on stage are writing thinking that they're going to do some type of live production, or if you're going to be speaking, even if you're doing something like this or a TED talk, you're going off of a script. This presentation is actually my script for presenting this information to you. It's just written and it looks different because I put visuals to it because this is the best way for me to be able to communicate the information. So it's the same exact thing, packaged in a different way. A script for a stage play is basically this. Okay. So theater arts I love it because it's a fun and exciting way to communicate ideas. Now, if you are wanting to do something that is not so much theater, again, you're still doing live performance. There's no way to get around that. So it's just fun. The heart of the audience is usually open to, and ready to receive when you're also using dramatic presentation, which is a great way, a reason why you should do it, because also people are just less combative and they're more relaxed when they're sitting in a theater setting. because this experience can take them through many emotions. So the first thing about, excuse me, storytelling and script writing is that you do want to touch on certain emotions from people, because it is going to be the best way for you, for you to connect with them and for them to connect with the characters and the story. So I also believe that theater arts can reinforce self-love and cultural understanding, which addresses public health issues. And we need live theater and art because it sparks creativity in people and gives an opportunity for imagination to wake up. And Lord knows people need to wake up their imaginations these days. Playwrights are visionaries, in my opinion. One of my favorite Bible scriptures is write the vision so it can be carried out by other people. So the idea, something is given to you as far as your story being able to be played out on a stage, or perhaps you're envisioning a story that you want to put on the stage. It might not even be your story. It could be a story that you've heard of or that resonated with you when you heard it, but you have a vision to see it played out. You can see people doing it. That vision to see and to perceive something is very powerful. That is something that is put in motion. I call them dreams in motion. And uh, if you can approach your script and your new desire, or even just kind of like old or renewed desire to write in script form for a production purpose, then you want to write these things down. You want to put down every detail and then edit as you go along. Usually my writing process starts out with just notes and just kind of bullet points on what I want to see. And they might be random and all over the place, but they're the idea is that at some point I'm going to revisit this and edit it down so that it makes more sense, and I'm either writing it into a script or shaping how I want to see things play out on the stage. So take a little bit of time right now to tell us about your story in 1 to 3 minutes. So why are you wanting to take this workshop? What is your story about? So even if you're not going to stop you're going to stop the video for 1 to 3 minutes. And I want you to write down just some bullet points and then present it as if you are speaking to me. It might sound a little bit crazy, but it's also just that practice of that elevator speech, so that if you are a person that needs people to invest in what your vision is for your production, or how are you selling the story, even with your playbill and wanting to do maybe social media promotion, you're needing to tell us about your story and what you've written or want to write about in a few minutes, and maybe not even a few minutes, maybe under 1 minute. So try that right now. Stop the video for about 1 to 3 minutes, and then remind yourself, what is your story about that you want to tell in script? Okay, so now we're going to be talking about just quickly the map of production. So I want to talk about the map of a production because it's easier to write the script when you understand pretty much all of the components of putting it up on the stage, even if you're not there at that point. But it will help you to kind of also edit your script down in the event that either of these things become a challenge. So first of all, you're starting off with your budget. You must count the cost first. This is just wisdom speaking at its loudest thing. So at any project that you're going to do, you need to count the cost. Also, the script is written from a budget. When it's written from a budget, it will save you a ton of headache and discouragement. So after you've counted up basically how much will this production cost, as far as when the script is done, what is it looking like with the props and wardrobe and people. Like, if you don't have a lot of money, it doesn't make sense to try to cast a lot of people. You want to maybe use one scene. You want to be smart. You want to take it from not just elaborate and expensive, but how do you still make it and present it to be elaborate and expensive, scaled down so that you can actually afford to finish it and do it and put it up? Because putting up a live for production does cost a couple of dollars. You know, you need a lot of things. So you got to do that research. You need a sales and social media plan. You also need casting, rehearsals, and technical elements. There's also production day and then post-production follow-up, which could be just surveys or emails or follow-up with people who saw the production. You want to keep those things going. You want to do a full, complete process. Also, you might think about having a cast party just so that you are creating those relationships and making sure that your cast and production team feel appreciated after all of the hard work. So that's just a quick recap. That's just like a quick rundown of that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is finding the script in your story. And my thought is well done scenes make the script. So I just break everything down. This whole workshop is broken down into, if you think about a pie, the script is the pie, and the pieces of the pie are the scenes. And well done scenes, if you just reduce it down to just well done scenes, don't even think about the whole production. Think about scene to scene, how to make each scene as most impactful and powerful as possible. So for me, it starts with story conversion. And a lot of times I like to understand the historical text of something, even if it pertains to my real life. So historical text to script for stage. Excuse me. Historical text and other references will help you bring substance to your script. We want to see well thought out stories. We want to hear, touch, and taste what the characters are experiencing. And then you want to layer in the background. So, for example, historical text, if you are using a story that has to do with maybe a drug addiction, for example, you know, research and find out, like, well, where does all this start? Where do these statistics happen? If you're thinking of a setting to put your addict in, say your story is about an addict, what's the best setting for this person to life to play out in? Perhaps you have an educational purpose to what you're writing, your script. You know, we're always teaching one another something, and we always want to end obviously with some kind of like moral reach or a resolve. This is just the way that we tell stories in our culture. We want there to be good endings, even though we want to see the struggles of how a person gets there. But you need that historical text. How and that has to do a lot with research. And then there's other ways that we're going to talk about historical text as we go through the first activity. But I just want to put that in there. So one thing is as an audience, if we don't see a three-dimensional person or character on stage, which is for me the balance of a perfect and imperfect person, we just check out. Everything is an instrument to tell the story, but the actors are very important instruments, obviously. What that actor understands about that character is going to depend on what you write. Now, actors also have the obligation of doing their research as well, which can bring us back to historical text. You can give that to the actor by what you put into the script, but we just want to remember that. We want to make three-dimensional people when we're creating scripts. And even if you're just doing a monologue or you're doing a speech, you still want to be a three-dimensional person. The script can be seen as the roadmap for the actor. So we want to allow space for them to create beyond what you write within the context of your message. So ad-libbing isn't the goal that I'm talking about, but I'm talking about character enhancements that's just naturally needed. They want to add a little bit of flair to that character, not of themselves, but more of what the background that you've given that character. We want to see that come out within their acting. And that happens in the script. What is happening in the background matters. Don't write in unnecessary actors or use unnecessary set pieces. So, or as a great way to not do that, and understand that, like you could distract a person from what's going on in the background, from the main thing of what you're trying to present up front with with another actor. But also, you might need actors in the background. So make sure that those uh, actions that you're writing in for them are intentional and purposeful. Otherwise, just don't have them on the stage. It won't even really matter. So let's talk about the basic parts of the script. You have setting, characters, dialogue, blocking action, sound cues, and lighting cues. And if you look here to the right where I have a script, this is just like a really simple way to kind of understand um, just these parts of the script. In the middle, you see in all caps the name of the character, Rachel. On the left-hand side, you see her dialogue, closer. On the right-hand side, you see there to be uh, actions that are happening. And again, this is just the simplest way to format those things. You might put things in parentheses as far as even when you see down here, Jacob winning the water fight is in parentheses. So this is what he's doing as he's delivering the line. Do you love me now? Say you love me. Shout it into the world. He's winning. So you can tell that those are action words. Those words need to have action with them. So those are things that you can do as the writer to really set this environment for how you want the actors to be acting out your script. So then what you don't see on the script are sounds cues and light cues. Those are more for the technical script, but those would also go on the left-hand side, and they're usually indicated or marked like SQ1, which would mean sound cue 1, or SQ2, sound cue 2. So it would be the progression of things that are happening as far as the lights and the sound when these things are going on the script. So our first activity is reading a biblical story, and then we're going to read a script that we just looked at, the simple one that I just showed you, that was converted from that story into a script for the stage. Now I'm using a biblical story because number one, I love the Bible. I love all of the stories in the Bible, but I want you to see it was the simplest way for me to be able to show you how excuse me, I'm losing my words, how a story is converted from just a story into a stage play. And then also I love how you can distinguish between historical account of the facts, the way that they did it back then, and communicating that information, and then how we need to do it today. If you're taking something from a historical text, how you weave in the entertainment, because that just comes with an understanding of our culture. So after we read Genesis 29, 1 through 20, we're also going to read the Rachel and Leah script, pages 2 through 6. Now, Rachel and Leah story is found in Genesis 29, but the Rachel and Leah script was written so that it could go and be acted out on stage. So in the Rachel and Leah script, we're going to notice how the idea of romance is the theme of the story in the stage play. And it's not just a historical account, it's more it's changed and adapted into a romantic story. Educational details about shepherds and watering their sheep during that time we see through the actors' actions, and then how the writer captured modern day dialogue from an ancient story. And again, these are things that are happening already in Hollywood. Most blockbuster movies that you see are biblical accounts of something, like the story 300. 300 is in the actual Bible. It is a real story, but it was adapted for a movie telling a different side of the story. But It's still the same story. The origination of the story is the same. So we're just going to read Genesis 29, 1 through 20, and then we're going to see the script and kind of compare and contrast, and just to understand how we're taking our story. So imagine the story was in your head, and then now you're going to put it into a script. So then Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the people of the east. As he looked, he saw a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep lying beside it. For out of that well the flocks were watered. The stone on the well's mouth was large, and when all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place over the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where do you come from?" They said, "We are from Haran." He said to them, "Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor?" They said, "We know him." He said to them, "Is it well with him?" They said, "It is well. And see, Rachel, his daughter, is coming with the sheep." He said, "Behold, it is still high day. It is not time for the livestock to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go pasture them." But they said, "We cannot until all the flocks are gathered together and the stone is rolled from the mouth of the well. Then we water the sheep." While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. Now, as soon as Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob came near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. So I'm going to stop right there. I know that I said we're going to go farther, but we don't need to. Because now I want to read for you the Rachel and Leah script. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to stop sharing my screen real quick. And I am going to read how the script goes. So if you give me 1 second, I'm so sorry. I did not have this up. But so we saw how Jacob enters into the scene and how Rachel enters into the scene. Now I want you to see how the script was created and adapted from that story. Rachel and Leah is the script. It reads, "Lights up on Rachel, comforting her animals." 1 second, I'm going to share the screen because it'll probably be easier for you. Okay. Lights up on Rachel, comforting her animals. They are thirsty and restless. Jacob enters and approaches. Jacob, "Good morning, beautiful. May I offer you a hand?" Rachel, "I already have a hand, 2 actually. Thanks, though." Jacob, "Well, sure you do, but what do you say I offer you 2 more?" Rachel, "Well, what can those hands do to these that these hands can't?" Jacob, "Lots of stuff, I figure." Rachel, "Listen, man, I brought my flock out here just like you brought yours, okay?" Jacob, "Well, sure you did, but what did you bring them out here for?" Rachel, "So they can drink." Jacob, "Doesn't look like they're drinking." Rachel, "Because the well hasn't been opened yet." Jacob, "Well, why can't those hands open it?" Rachel, "I can't open the well until all the flocks arrive." Jacob, "You can't open the well until they arrive, or you won't open the well until they arrive." Rachel, "I can't." Jacob, "Well, I bet I can." Rachel, "Don't, unless you want to be hated around here." Jacob, "Why would you hate me?" "No, I would love you because my flock would finally stop whining, but that's not the point. You need to respect the traditions of any place you go." Jacob, "Wait a minute. So you're saying if I break this tradition, I get your love. But if I hold this tradition, I get what?" Rachel, "You get the eternal satisfaction of knowing that the..." Jacob, "I'm opening the well." Jacob edges towards the well, and the sheep follow him. Rachel, no, don't open it. I promise my love is not worth it. Jacob, oh, I don't believe that for a second. Rachel, don't open it. I don't even know what love is, Jacob. I can teach you if you let me. Inches closer. Rachel, oh my goodness, you're going to open it. Jacob, look how excited the sheep are. Will they love me too? Rachel, probably. Oh my goodness, you're going to open it. Jacob, oh, I'm going to open it. Rachel closes her eyes, and Jacob opens the well and begins watering the sheep. Gonna stop right there. Okay, so I just thought that that was like the best way uh, for that production to open up. And as you can see, how different it is from the original text, which is found in the scripture, into the script that is bringing forth this romance at the start of the show. And it as you read through as you continue to read the scripture, the actual scripture, biblical scripture, you begin to see that there is this love that Jacob has for Rachel. But I thought it was brilliant that the writer would put that love on display right at this innocent initial meeting of them. It makes it all the more romantic, all the more engaging for me to want to see how is the story going to play out. And that's what you want. So we're going to go back to the presentation. Sorry. Okay. So we're going to go back to this presentation so that we can continue on with this workshop. So first thing is, now that we've read both parts of the script, what was the setting of the play? Excuse me. And these are questions that you can answer. You can actually pause this video right here. I'll read the answers out, but I want you to think about these things because I think that it helps you to understand better how to create more meaningful and powerful scenes within your entire script. So what was the setting of the play? The setting is important because, of course, on the stage, you want to make sure that you are utilizing your resources correctly. So the setting of the play is a well where the actors are bringing their flocks to be watered. Now, when this play actually happened, I was actually in it, so I can say that the setting that we used for the stage was just one well sitting in the middle of the stage, and there weren't any sheep. You could hear the bleating sounds of sheep in the background, so we used sound to create the presence of the sheep. And then you just had your two actors, Rachel and Jacob. Who are the main characters? I just said it, Rachel and Jacob. Rachel and Jacob are immediately introduced in the stage play, in the script of the stage play, but in the historical text found in the Bible, in the story found in the Bible, there are shepherds first that Jacob runs into, and then Rachel comes afterwards. That whole idea was not needed for the stage. So putting those characters right up, getting right to the action is what we call it when you write. And that is the best way to tell a scene. Get right to the action. Describe what you noticed about Jacob's character. I'll give you my ideas of what I noticed about Jacob. Jacob in the script, and we're just going to talk about the script at this point. Jacob in the script is very, he's a bad boy. Like he is adventurous. Like he is one to kind of like a jokester. That's what I noticed. Describe what you notice about Rachel's character. Rachel is fully well responsible because she's taking her father's sheep to be watered. She's a shepherdess. And she's also someone who's very responsible and orderly, which is why she talked about to Jacob about not breaking the traditions. So, how would you include the sheep characters, and are they necessary? So, like I said, the actual production, we did not use sheep. It would have been nice to have some real ones there, but if you're not going to use real ones, what's the point? Um, so they weren't necessary for how we staged it. Sounds can be used for sheep. And then how would you imagine that the set looked during the scene? So I already told you that we used a well, which was made out of a trash can and some very cool artwork. And that was the well, and it had real water in it. So you could hear the water. So that is another element of the production that would made it, this scene very engaging. And then lighting makes a difference. So how would I have looked at that time? So lighting is your friend, especially when you're in a theater. Like it can just bring so much depth into a scene. So always consider your lighting, your sounds, even when you don't want to write a character in, it's the best way to save money. Would you add music to the scene? Why or why not? So music wasn't necessary for this scene, in my opinion. Um, I wouldn't add it because I think that the dialogue was so strong and their playfulness and this romance, you just don't want that um, washed out by something sounding in the back. Now we did sheep sounds in the back, and that didn't drown anything out. It was just a natural part of the environment. So, what kind of lighting makes sense for the scene? You need to understand what it would have looked like daylight. So again, research comes in. So these are things that you're kind of doing after the script, but again, it is setting this atmosphere even for you to write. So imagine these things as you're writing. It's going to give you so much material, uh, goodness in your material. The last question, what famous actors would you cast for these characters? So think about that for a minute. Think about who could be a cool Jacob, like Idris Elba, or Tay Diggs, or Lawrence Tate. Mhm. Who could be a great Rachel? Rachel, I just imagine as maybe Nia Long. Um, who else could I see being a Rachel? Uh, There's a girl named Joy. I forget her last name though, but she probably would be good as well. Anyway, think about it. So, your basic parts of your script or your scene, I'm sorry, is just cut it into three: the beginning, the middle, and the end. It's the simplest way to remember how to make a powerful scene. So, you want to introduce your characters in a creative yet simple way. You want to get right to that action. How are you introducing them? Now, if we're taking the theme of a story about alcoholism or whatever, and your character is an alcoholic within that scene, how is this character always entering? How's this character entering into the scene? Now, when we're thinking about the script of Rachel and Leah, how did these characters enter into the scene? Rachel was already there. She was already responsible. She was already waiting for a time to open the water hole to water the sheep. Middle. How can things get worse and worse and worse? That is the way that you drive forward a scene that is just kind of like not just a bunch of dialogue, and it's not um, revealing more and more trouble of whatever the goal that the person is trying to get to. It's going to drag out and people are going to get bored. So you want things to get worse and worse and worse. You want the challenge and the stakes to be raised probably 3 or 4 times within that scene. So sometimes people kind of accomplish that through an argument or something like that. How can you transition from scene to scene, leaving the audience wanting more? So that's the end of your scene. You want to be mindful of transitioning. How is this scene going to end? And then is it thoughtful for how the next scene opens? You want to make sure that you're thinking about this, but for just the sake of the workshop and creating powerful, powerful scenes to make up a full script, I want you to consider always the beginning, the middle, and who are the people? What's happening? Introduce those characters and then how you're going to introduce them. Middle, what's the issue? There's always an issue. If there's no issue, then it's probably going to be a problem. But you need things to escalate and get worse and worse and worse. And then how are you going to end it and transition this whatever's happening into the next scene? So you want to be mindful of these things. Now it's time to practice. Okay, so we're going to read the parable of the lost son. And this passage right here, I want you to find a scene that you would like to develop out of this passage. So I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to go over what you're going to do. The parable of the lost son. And mind you, I use scripture because, like I said, I love it. And it's the best stories that you're able to really apply and understand because they deal with life. But they don't get old. Like, these things always happen. There's a way to modernize what we're reading. And I think that that's a valuable part of why I use scripture so much to teach people writing. The parable of the lost son. Jesus continued. There was a man who had two sons. The younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.'" So we're going to go through what you're going to do. We're going to bring the drama. And I want you to take about 30 minutes to do this activity. I want you to create one scene. And as you create this scene, think about the settings, the character, what's happening, strong dialogue, understand how to bring in some conflict, blocking in actions, sensible transitions to the next scene. But I just want you to create one scene. Don't worry about creating two or whatever. Just understand. So at the end of this scene that you're creating, we should be on our seats for the next scene. And how are you going to use the story to do it? Let's just go back to the parable of the lost son. You have characters that you can use to create this story. Think about it. What has happened in this story? This man has two sons. The younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So this was highly offensive back here in this time. I'm just going to give you the background so that you can understand like where your stories can come from or how you can build a scene. What would that scene have been like if your son, it's like your child coming to you before you're dead and saying, "I want my inheritance. I don't care if you die or not." So it's like a slap in the face kind of thing. So you can create that scene. What did that scene look like? What is that conversation like? Or you can even go back to, there was a man who had two sons. There's a scene that can be made out of that. What are these two sons like? We know that one is selfish, so you can create this scene where we are introduced to these two sons. So the father ended up giving the younger son his share of the estate before his death or whatever. So not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and then squandered his wealth in wild living. We all know what this is like. This is like balling until we fall. So what does that scene look like? Where did he go? What was this experience like? Living, squandering his wealth and wild living. That's a scene you can write out. Show us what it looks like and how it transition. So that's what I want you to use this story for. So you can go back to the story or leave it on your screen, but I want you to take 30 minutes and create one scene with the characters, think about the setting, what's going on, use dialogue, and make it doesn't need to be long. It could be about 4 pages, maybe anywhere from 3 to 6 pages is fine for a scene. Think about 1 page as 1 minute on the stage. So you don't need to have like a long scene. Okay, so happy writing. So after your exercise, I want you to share it with someone. And you're welcome to make a recording and share with me. So if you want to email me at storytellerstudiosblog@gmail.com, I would be happy to look at your story and your scene and give you a little bit of feedback on it. So share that story. So I think that is it. We got it done. So that activity should have given you the taste of what it's like to create a strong scene. Remember, your script is just a collection of scenes, very strong, powerful scenes. And I know that you can really use that format of beginning, middle, and end of the scene and really create these scenes and get through it. Get your script done with expediency and with excellence. So I'm going to pre-record more workshops that will be available for you. Please take the time to consider whether or not you want more help in these areas. I'm going to do production budgets, casting and rehearsals, directing your show, sound and lighting tips, production day tips, and what you must do on production day, selling the show, social media promotion, and creating an experience, all the marketing. We'll have a video on recognizing and taking advantage of every sale. So how your merch comes in, how you can maximize a performance, a digital performance. So whether you have the live performance and tape it correctly, you can repurpose that material as content and really sell it online. If you need more help, I can definitely be booked to help with your entire show from start to finish. Just email storytellerstudiosblog@gmail.com or reach out to me on my website, which is www.storytellerstudiosplus.com. Okay, so you're now closer to seeing your show on the stage. This is amazing. Just write, and you are going to be so pleased with your results. Thank you so much for doing this workshop with me, and I hope that it has blessed you. I hope that you have more ideas. Please let me know how your script is coming along. So proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Thank you. I am excited to see what you present for the stage. Bye.